In the harsh fluorescent light of an Atlanta Police Department interrogation room, 21-year-old Jasmine Edwards faces the consequences of a vendetta that would shock a nation. Her delicate features mask a determination that even veteran detective Marcus Johnson finds unnerving. Scattered across the metal table between them lie the fragments of lives forever altered, medical reports, photographs, and evidence of a calculated campaign that targeted 50 men across the city. Each piece tells a story of trust betrayed, of innocence weaponized, of revenge served with methodical precision. Just 3 months earlier, this same young woman stood before her church congregation, her voice lifting praise to heaven with such purity that elderly parishioners would weep. Now she sits in silence, her choir robes exchanged for prison orange, her hymnal replaced by a case file that reads like a modern tragedy. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But for Jasmine Edwards, it was served with a smile, a prayer, and a death sentence passed from lover to lover in the dark of night. When asked if she regrets her actions, her response sends chills through the precinct. 50 lives ruined, 50 lessons learned. Regret isn't part of it. This is a story of innocence corrupted, of justice perverted, of how a single act of violence created an avalanche of destruction that would leave no soul untouched. And it all began with amazing grace. Before the fall comes the pinnacle of grace. Every Sunday morning, Jasmine Edwards' voice soars through Mount Olive Baptist Church, leading the congregation in song like an angel destined for greater things. Her mother beams from the front pew, pride radiating from every pore, while deacons nod in approval at Brother Edwards' youngest daughter, the perfect child, the model of virtue, the future of their flock. But even the purest notes can carry shadows. As Mrs. Edwards adjusts her daughter's golden cross necklace, a confirmation gift passed down through generations, her words carry the weight of prophecy. This will protect you if you let it. A mother's wisdom, or perhaps a warning, lost in the moment between verses. Yet while the congregation sways to ancient hymns of salvation, Jasmine's gaze drifts to the alto section, where Sarah Mitchell's high collar can't quite hide the evidence of Saturday night's temptations. And in that fleeting glance lies the first crack in a perfect facade, a hairline fracture that will soon split wide open, swallowing whole the girl who once sang of amazing grace. In the soft glow of her phone screen, Jasmine's Sunday salvation fades into Monday's temptations. Each swipe unveils another world, a world of rooftop parties, designer labels, and freedom just beyond her grasp, a world where good girls go bad and bad decisions masquerade as adventure. Then comes the message that will split her life into before and after. 3 words from Aaron Mitchell. Tonight, be ready. The same Aaron whose Porsche draws stares in the church parking lot, whose generous donations bring knowing smiles from the deacons, whose attention sends every girl's heart racing. 10 minutes of hesitation, 20 minutes of preparation. At 11:47 p.m., Jasmine Edwards steps into the night, leaving the safety of her father's house behind. The neighbor's security camera records her final moments of innocence, a young woman in white sneakers sprinting toward what she believes is destiny. She doesn't know yet that destiny has sharper teeth than dreams. The bass at Aaron's penthouse party drowns out the echoes of morning hymns. In a crystal glass of champagne, a golden cross sinks to the bottom. A small thing, really, barely noticed in the heat of the moment. Aaron's attention feels like answered prayers, his charm as intoxicating as the drinks he keeps bringing. The perfect daughter finds herself perfectly isolated, away from prying eyes and voices of reason. The next morning arrives like a hammer to glass. In a room she doesn't recognize, Jasmine Edwards wakes to a reality she never imagined. Her mother's warning echoes through the fog of consciousness. This will protect you, if you let it. But her cross necklace is gone now, lost somewhere between innocence and understanding. And with it, the last traces of the girl who once sang about amazing grace. In the harsh light of day, protection feels like a distant memory. Some falls from grace are gentle, graceful even. This one leaves bruises that no amount of faith can hide. The words hung in the sterile air like a verdict. HIV positive. Jasmine Edwards sat frozen, her breath caught somewhere between disbelief and devastation. The doctor's tone softened, but it was no match for the weight of the diagnosis. In that moment, the world she once knew crumbled beneath her. piece by piece. Alone in her room later that evening, she delved into a rabbit hole of online searches and whispered conversations with others who had crossed Aaron Mitchell's path. Each story added another jagged piece to the puzzle. Dismissed allegations, silenced accusations, a history of manipulation and recklessness that left a trail of shattered lives in his wake. Anger began to replace her grief, spreading through her like wildfire. This wasn't just betrayal, it was deliberate, calculated harm. And as Jasmine stared at her reflection, the tears on her face gave way to something sharper, something stronger. This wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of something she couldn't yet name, but could already feel stirring deep within her. Jasmine stood before Aaron, her voice trembling with a mixture of rage and anguish. She demanded answers, justice, something to make sense of the betrayal that had shattered her world. But Aaron's response was ice cold. He laughed, dismissing her pain with a smirk that stung deeper than any words. In the crowded restaurant, his cruelty echoed louder than the clinking glasses and muted conversations. "You're not special," he sneered, his voice dripping with arrogance. The humiliation was complete. Heads turned, whispers spread, and Jasmine felt the weight of their judgment pressing down on her. But beneath the embarrassment and the sting of rejection, something shifted. The tears that threatened to fall dried before they could escape. Shame gave way to resolve. As Aaron turned his back and walked away, Jasmine didn't crumble, she hardened. In that moment, the girl who once believed in forgiveness and faith was gone. In her place stood someone new, someone unbreakable, someone ready to fight fire with fire. That night, Jasmine Edwards began to fade, and Amara Lyons was born. In the quiet of her small apartment, Jasmine Edwards ceased to exist. The girl who once clung to hymns and hope was gone, replaced by someone forged in the fire of betrayal and humiliation. From the ashes of innocence, Amara Lyons emerged. Her transformation was meticulous, deliberate. The cross necklace she once wore was now tucked away in a drawer, a relic of a life she no longer claimed. On the walls, photographs began to appear. Faces of men who had crossed lines, names carefully written beneath each image. Some she recognized from whispers in the community, others she found through relentless research. Together they formed a mosaic of targets, a tapestry of retribution. Each name carried weight, each face a purpose. Amara's resolve sharpened with every addition to the wall. This wasn't just revenge, it was justice, served cold and calculated. The girl who had once sung of grace was now charting a path where mercy had no place. Amara Lyons wasn't looking for redemption. She was creating her own reckoning. Greg didn't stand a chance. A man accustomed to power and privilege, he was drawn to Amara Lyons like a moth to a flame. Her charm was effortless, her smile disarming, her confidence irresistible. Over dinner, her laughter filled the air, masking the quiet precision behind every word, every glance, every calculated move. When the evening drew to a close, Greg believed he had won her over. But in truth, he was already ensnared, another name on a growing list. As he leaned in closer, his guard lowered by her intoxicating allure, Amara's resolve wavered, just for a moment. The faintest flicker of doubt crossed her mind, a shadow of the person she used to be. But the memory of Aaron's smirk, his cruelty, and the trail of lives he had shattered burned away any hesitation. Amara buried the fleeting spark of humanity beneath her unyielding determination. This wasn't about guilt or redemption. This was about justice on her terms. And Greg, like the others to come, would be her proof that vengeance had no limits. Amara's strategy was flawless. Late into the night, she scrolled through dating apps, each swipe a calculated decision. Profiles were analyzed with precision, status, habits, weaknesses, all pieces of a puzzle she was determined to solve. Conversations were crafted with skill, her words a perfect blend of charm and subtle manipulation, pulling her targets deeper into her web. Her wall of photographs grew, each new addition a testament to her meticulous planning. Every target had a purpose, every encounter a step toward the justice she believed they deserved. Her focus was absolute, her determination unshakable. But as her plans unfolded, a single anonymous message disrupted her rhythm. "I'm watching you." The words were simple but chilling, a crack in her otherwise impenetrable armor. For a moment she paused, the weight of her mission pressing heavier than ever. Still, she pushed forward, unwilling to let fear or anyone stand in her way. Amara was unstoppable, and nothing, not even the shadows closing in, would deter her from completing her mission. It was a chance meeting, one that neither of them could have anticipated. At a small cafe tucked away from the chaos of the city, Jasmine fumbled with her belongings, her focus clouded by the weight of her plans. That's when Marcus appeared, his voice warm and steady, offering help without hesitation. There was no agenda in his kindness, no ulterior motive in his words. For the first time in what felt like forever, someone saw her. Not the persona she had constructed, not the walls she had built, but her. His sincerity cut through her carefully crafted facade, leaving her momentarily unguarded. But vulnerability was dangerous. Every instinct warned her to keep her distance, to remember the mission that consumed her every waking thought. And yet something about Marcus lingered, pulling her in ways she couldn't explain. As she walked away, his presence lingered in her mind, a quiet conflict stirring within her. Could she hold on to the humanity he awakened, or would her mission demand she bury it forever? The lines between Jasmine and Amara blurred further, and for the first time, she wasn't sure who she wanted to be. Detective Marcus Johnson had seen his share of cases, but this one was different. The growing list of HIV-positive victims painted a pattern too deliberate to ignore. Each file told a chilling story, and as he pieced them together, one name began to surface: Amara Lyons. Her online presence was carefully constructed, a maze of aliases and cryptic messages, but Johnson was relentless. Every breadcrumb led closer to the truth, and soon the picture began to sharpen. Amara Lyons wasn't just a name, she was a persona, a shadow crafted to conceal something far more sinister. He started following her movements, watching from a distance as she moved through the city with precision. There was a method to her madness, a purpose that eluded him but kept him hooked. The closer he got, the more the line blurred between justice and obsession. Each step brought him closer to unraveling the truth. But he couldn't shake the feeling that she was always one step ahead, watching him just as closely. The walls were closing in, for both of them. Marcus had always trusted his instincts, and something about Jasmine didn't sit right. The small inconsistencies, the fleeting moments of hesitation, the stories that didn't quite add up, each one chipped away at the image she presented. He couldn't ignore the feeling that there was more to her than she let on. One evening, as they sat across from each other in the quiet hum of the cafe, Marcus leaned in, his voice low but firm. "Who are you, really?" The question lingered in the air, heavy with meaning. Jasmine froze, her carefully constructed composure threatening to crack under the weight of his sincerity. For the first time in months, she felt the pull of two opposing worlds. One was the mission she had built her life around, a path of calculated vengeance that demanded her full focus. The other was Marcus, a glimpse of something pure, something that reminded her of the girl she used to be. Her silence spoke louder than any words, and Marcus knew he had struck a nerve. But instead of pushing further, he waited, his eyes searching hers for answers she wasn't ready to give. The tension grew, wrapping around them both as Jasmine felt her walls begin to tremble. For the first time, her resolve wavered, and she wondered if she could keep the two worlds from colliding for much longer. The breaking news report hit like a thunderclap, sending shockwaves across the city. A pattern had been uncovered, connecting multiple HIV cases to a single calculated source. The anchor's voice was steady, but the words carried a weight that no one could ignore. Suspicion swirled around an anonymous figure, an elusive predator hiding in plain sight. For Jasmine, the fallout was immediate. The whispers grew louder, the stares more piercing, as every move she made felt like it was under a microscope. The walls of her apartment seemed to close in, the evidence of her actions staring back at her like silent accusations. Each photograph, each carefully chosen target, now felt like a liability. The anonymous threats multiplied, their messages cryptic yet menacing. "We know who you are. You can't hide forever." Her once unshakable confidence began to erode under the relentless pressure. And as law enforcement tightened its net, led by Detective Johnson's unwavering pursuit, Jasmine realized her carefully constructed world was crumbling. The clock was ticking, and every second brought her closer to a reckoning she could no longer avoid. The news of Aaron's death struck like a thunderbolt, cutting through Jasmine's carefully maintained resolve. The details were sparse, the circumstances shrouded in mystery, but the weight of his absence was undeniable. For the first time, she felt the enormity of her actions, the ripple effect of choices made in anger and pain. The man who had set her on this path was gone, yet the scars he left behind remained. As she grappled with the revelation, another shock awaited her. A routine visit to the doctor confirmed what she could hardly process. She was pregnant. The question of the father's identity loomed over her, a haunting reminder of the chaos her life had become. The future she once envisioned was now a tangled web of uncertainty and fear. For the first time, Jasmine felt the weight of her own humanity pressing down on her, the cost of her revenge manifesting in ways she could never have anticipated. Her path, once so clear, was now obscured by doubt, forcing her to confront the person she had become and the life she might bring into the world. Under the soft glow of the setting sun, Jasmine found herself standing by the river, the weight of her secrets finally too much to bear. Her voice trembled as she began to speak, each word peeling back the layers she had worked so hard to conceal. She told Marcus everything, the deception, the vengeance, the lives altered by her hands. Marcus listened in silence, his expression a storm of emotions, shock, anger, sadness, and an undercurrent of something she couldn't quite place. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady but filled with pain. "Why didn't you trust me?" he asked, the words cutting deeper than she had expected. Tears streaked her face as she tried to explain, but no explanation could erase the gravity of what she had done. Love and horror collided between them, the connection they had built now teetering on the edge of collapse. As their exchange unfolded, another story was being written. Detective Johnson was closing in, his team tracking Jasmine's every move. Steps echoed in the distance, radios crackled with updates, and the clock counted down to an inevitable conclusion. The river's calm betrayed the storm brewing on its banks, as two worlds, love and justice, prepared to collide. Jasmine's confession was not the end of her story, but the beginning of her reckoning. The raid unfolded with ruthless precision. Police stormed Jasmine's apartment, their shouts slicing through the stillness. Doors were kicked open, drawers overturned, and every corner of her meticulously constructed world was laid bare. The evidence wall, once a testament to her calculated mission, now stood as an undeniable record of her crimes. Photographs, names, and dates told the story that no words could erase. Jasmine was silent as they cuffed her, the weight of her choices pressing down harder with every passing second. Her eyes flickered to Marcus, standing at a distance, his expression a mix of anguish and helplessness. He didn't move, didn't speak, as the woman he thought he knew was taken away. For Jasmine, the fight was over. But as the door closed behind her, she knew the true battle was just beginning. Her reckoning had arrived, and with it, the harsh light of justice that would expose everything she had fought to keep hidden. The courtroom was heavy with silence as each victim's family took the stand. Their voices trembled with pain, recounting stories of shattered lives, stolen futures, and heartbreak that could never fully heal. Tears fell freely, their words cutting through the room like knives. Each testimony was a stark reminder of the destruction Jasmine's actions had wrought, painting a portrait of devastation that no defense could erase. Then Marcus stepped forward, carrying with him the weight of a truth that was both condemning and compassionate. He presented evidence that left no doubt of Jasmine's guilt, but his words also offered a deeper understanding. He spoke of her pain, her transformation, and the moments that led her down this dark path. His voice cracked as he described the woman he had come to know, not as a monster, but as a broken soul seeking justice in all the wrong ways. The courtroom hung on every word, torn between anger and empathy. By the end, there was no denying the damage Jasmine had caused, but there was also no denying the tragedy of how she had arrived at this moment. Her fate was sealed, but her story was far from over. In the quiet confines of a prison cell, Jasmine began the arduous journey toward redemption. Therapy sessions forced her to confront the choices that had brought her there, peeling back the layers of anger and pain to uncover the humanity she thought she had lost. Each session was a step toward accountability, a reckoning with the lives she had forever changed. Her letters became her lifeline. One by one, she wrote to her victims, pouring her remorse onto the page. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She knew it wasn't hers to request. Instead, she offered her truth, her regret, and the lessons she had learned, in the hope that it might bring some measure of solace to those she had hurt. Her words resonated far beyond the walls that confined her. They inspired the formation of a survivor support group, a community built on shared pain and resilience. Her journals became a beacon for others, a testament to the power of facing one's darkest truths and finding the strength to move forward. Jasmine could not undo the past, but in her small acts of redemption, she began to carve a path towards something greater, a legacy of hope born from the ashes of tragedy. Years had passed, and time had etched its mark on Jasmine. Her once unyielding resolve had softened into quiet acceptance, a reflection of the journey she had endured. In a small moment of solitude, she opened a drawer and found it, the cross necklace she had abandoned so long ago. Holding it in her hands, she felt the weight of her sins and the humanity she had fought to reclaim. With steady hands, she placed it around her neck, not as a symbol of innocence, but as a reminder of the woman she had become. Elsewhere, Marcus sat in silence, her journal resting on the table before him. Its pages were filled with the raw truths of her journey, the pain, the anger, the redemption she had sought but never fully found. As he read her final words, they lingered in the air like a haunting melody. The price of revenge was my soul. The cost of redemption, I'm still paying it. He closed the journal, his expression a blend of sorrow and understanding. Leaving it behind, he walked away, the weight of her story settling in his chest. Jasmine's legacy was not a story of absolution, but one of reckoning, a testament to the complexity of justice, humanity, and the unrelenting search for redemption.
Hey, before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Join our amazing community and stay connected with fresh content every single day. It's free, it's easy, and it guarantees you'll never miss out on the stories, insights, and adventures we share. So go ahead, click subscribe, and let's make every day unforgettable together.